Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Grow the Earth. Today we're out here in the garden, and what we're going to do is we're going to try and get another run out of our squash and zucchini, which we're going to put right here in this bed. And as you can see, I've already topped it off with some compost, and actually the squash has already been planted. But kind of like our green beans here, I was worried that we're going to have such high heat that it's going to really cause us a problem with trying to keep this soil moist enough in order for the seeds to germinate. So I'm going to use pretty much the same method, but a little bit different, on using a shade cloth in order to shade these squash, because also squash is kind of more of a spring and a fall, and we are dead in the middle of summer here. So we're going to need to shade or give some relief for these plants from the sun so that they'll produce healthily and not just get burned out of here by the sun. As you can see, the green beans here that we did with the shade cloth are doing absolutely wonderful. We're having to water them about every other day before they start to really kind of dry out. But as you can see, they're coming in great. They're not having any issues. Really have to think that the okra is given a little more shading from the real terrible sun because they are just looking so wonderful. Again, over here, we've got the squash already planted. We've actually got two different varieties of a patty pan squash on each end. And we have some other, some summer squash and some other squash in the center here. And like I said, I should say I'm worried that the summer heat is going to really kind of bake the soil and really make it very hard for these seeds to germinate. So I'm going to construct a tent of sorts for our shade cloth to kind of shield these things from the sun and give them a little relief from the summer heat. So I'm going to get our supplies, and I'll see you all in just a moment. All right, guys, we're back now. We've got all of our supplies here. And what we have here is this is a furring strip. Now, before the wood crisis of 2020, 2021, these were relatively expensive, like $1.50, $1.75 a piece. And now they're more like $2 or $3 a piece. Now, I've already cut these in half, and you see I've already got one installed here because these come in 8-foot long sections, and it would just be way too tall. So what I've done is I've cut these in half at 4 foot apiece, and we're just simply going to screw them into the side of the bed. I have wooden beds here, so it's just easiest for me to screw them in. If you have a galvanized bed, or maybe you've made one out of cinder block, those are actually pretty popular right now because of the price of wood. Or if you have brick or some other material, you can just simply cut a point on these and drive them in the ground. Once you get these about 8-10 inches of the ground, they're pretty solid. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw these in roughly every 4.5 to 5 foot, and we're going to put our shade cloth on top of this. And so we're, because since these are only about a 1/2 inch thick by about 1 inch wide, we've got, because of course I'm using wood, I've got some 1.25 inch decking screws here. I like to use decking screws. You can use whatever you want. I have found that the galvanizing makes them last a little bit longer, especially out here in the heat. And of course the screw gun. Of course your method may vary depending on what type of beds you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish putting these in, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to secure our shade cloth to the top of this. Alright guys, well, as you can see, we've got all of these stakes put in, and now it's time to put on our shade cloth. Now if you remember from my green bean video, and I'll put a link to it right up here, this is a 50% shade cloth. And if I remember correctly, it's somewhere around 6 foot wide and about 20 foot long. which works out perfect because our beds are about 3.5 foot wide and about 20 foot long, so it works out perfectly. But we're going to put this on here and secure it down. I believe that our spacing here is going to be just about right to support it, to make sure that it's not sinking down too much in certain areas. The good part about shade cloth is the water will go right through it, so you don't have to worry about, like with a tarp, that the water is going to kind of build up in the lower areas. The water will actually still go through it, unless of course you're receiving one of those nice Texas rainfalls to where we get 3 or 4 inches in an hour. So like I said, I'm going to put this up and then I'll bring you back and we'll show you what's going on here. Well, I decided to put you in a little time lapse there, but now that we've got this up, we got to pull it tight. And my shade cloth came with these little clips that kind of clip onto it, and you can tie a string or whatnot, whatever you want onto it. And we're going to use this, and we're just going to screw this right into the wood, and we're just going to do that all the way down, kind of tighten it up a little bit. And then, I'm going to put you in a time lapse for that too, and then we can see the final product. As you can see, this is going to provide a nice shady spot for our squash to grow. It's going to keep the majority of the sun because since this is 50%, then that means that only 50% of the heat and the sunlight makes it through. So we're still going to get enough sunlight for everything to grow right. And of course, you've got some areas on the side that sunlight can get through. So I don't think we're going to have to worry about them suffering from lack of sunlight too much. I mean, this area right here gets a good 10 to 14 hours worth of sun, especially now during the summer. So I don't think we're going to have that issue. And this brings up a good story from the Bible where it said that if you come under God, then He will be your shelter. It is, it's good to have God as our shelter. It's good to ask Him to come over us and protect us, because there's a lot of evil out there, and there's a lot of people that would love to see us, take harm. There's a lot of people that would try and take advantage of us, because as a Christian we are more loving and caring and forgiving and giving. And I know that being a person who's trying to be right with God and to not make assumptions and trying to, give more and not expect anything back, that, I've been taken advantage of more than my share of times. But you know what? I wouldn't change it a bit, because I know that God is going to deal with that person and I don't have to. And I also know that if I give with a heart for giving, if that is taken from me and taken advantage of, then God will replace it. And He'll replace it tenfold. And I don't have to worry about it. And, a lot of people see Christianity as a confinement. But, the people who are in Christ, they see it as a freeing. they get the weight of this world taken off their shoulders when they fully understand the completeness of God and the completeness of Christ. And this is a hard thing sometimes, because our sinful side, our fleshly side, wants to take revenge. We want to see that person get what's coming to them. When we give so freely and give out of our heart in kindness, and to be taken advantage of, it hurts. And if I wasn't in Christ, I would be a very bitter person over that. But I have learned that if I let that go and not dwell on it and not let it consume my mind, because that's what the devil would want. The devil would want that to consume my mind and to pull me away from the path and make me stray. That when I just forgive and just let it go and mark it as a lesson learned for the next time, to look for the signs that I should have seen, I'm preparing myself for a better place, not this place. And it makes a world of difference in the way that you see and the way you deal with things. So guys, as always, I ask you to pray over your garden, pray over your family, and have a great day.